Paul Kent, thank you for joining me on NRL Fans WA and giving me your time today.
Pleasure.
Um, just to give you a bit of a rundown of my page and stuff like that, what I'm trying to do. I try to promote the game here in Perth.
Yeah.
Trying to get more acknowledgement for our clubs and stuff like that. Try to promote the NRL here as well. So more people turn up. Obviously, with this 18th team possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get more people interested in it. So I do some photos and stuff. Go to local games and try to promote all the clubs.
That's good.
Yeah. Just jump into your sort of your career. Even though you had the one game at Parramatta in '89.
Yeah. Much of a career, mate.
How did that sort of come about? I remember hearing the story that you came in for Peter Sterling at the time.
No, it's for Jason Bell, mate. Was
it?
Sterling was out injured, so it was more about Jason Bell was playing halfback, but they were qualifying him for reserve grade, so they started me in first grade.
Okay.
Essentially, yeah. So it's a bit of a long story, mate, but not particularly interesting.
Yeah. I've said to a lot of people that I've done interviews with, whether you play one game of first grade or NRL or, you play 150 or 300, it's an amazing effort to get to that level. So, even though you did play one game, mate, it's nothing to be sneezed at. So, but yeah. So you've been doing the journalism stuff for a fair few years now. How long have you been in the industry for?
30 years this year.
Oh wow! Yeah, right. How did it all come about?
Actually started. Oh, look, I was always interested in journalism, even when I was playing footy. I was a cadet journalist, so I played, a year at Parramatta, and a couple of years at Norths, and I was a cadet journalist at that point as well. So I just went from there, mate. Just finished that and got a job in Sydney writing about the game.
Okay,
which was nice.
Yeah, cool. And I've noticed that you don't just write about rugby league. I know you're very passionate about your boxing. You've even had a couple of fights yourself. And you were at one point the European correspondent for News Corp over in London. That must have been a bit of a shock, culture shock for you.
Yeah, it was. Look, I've not done rugby league the whole time. I've written about most sports, and obviously 2 years as correspondent where I wrote about everything. I've written up the front of the newspaper about earthquakes and mine collapses and pikey wars and all that sort of business. So I've been around a lot of stuff. Look, journalism is just journalism as far as I see it. I will say the media's changed a fair bit in recent years, which means people want you to specialise these days. So with 360, with the league coverage and all that, I find that people are less willing to read when I write about other stuff. So I've just focused a lot more on those, on covering that rather than much else, to be honest.
Yeah. Like I said, you do have a very passionate thing for boxing as well. Do you still write about that a bit as well?
Yeah, I do. I write about when I can. I just, it's just when the fights are on, I write about it. There's nothing on, then I don't worry too much about it. Fights are sort of, there's not seasons like there is in rugby league, obviously. So when the fights are on and we're covering it, then I jump into that.
Yeah, absolutely. You've also written a couple of books as well, mate. Sunnyball, about obviously the Sonny Bill Williams saga that went on a few years ago at the Bulldogs, and the Johnny Lewis biography as well, mate. How did those sort of come about?
The Johnny one was first. Obviously, there's a lot of people asking him to write his story. He didn't particularly want to do it, but one day he just said to me, "Look, I'm thinking of doing it, but he didn't want anyone to write it, so he asked me if I'd do it. So I happily said yes to it, did that, and then out of that, uh, I suppose the sadness of writing about when you put so much work into writing a book is they end up in the $2 bin at a lot of places. And a guy there picked it up one day and started reading it while his wife was having a look at other books. He was picking through the $2 bin, and he found a Johnny Lewis book that I'd written, and he read the first couple of pages while he was waiting for his wife, and thought, I quite like it. So he paid the $2, went home, finished the book, and then he actually worked for Pam McMillan. So he rang me up and said, look, I want you to write a book for us. And essentially, mate, it came out of that. I didn't really have an idea for a book. I didn't particularly want to write a book, but I continued talking to him, and in the end, he said, look, we settled on writing a book on Sunnyville, and that was it, mate. So I wrote that book as well.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, watching NRL 360, obviously you've been on that show for many years now. Huge news coming out yesterday with two of the coaches being sacked yesterday. And that's three coaches in the last, 3-4 weeks now. Where do you think these three clubs, the Bulldogs, Tigers, and the Warriors are sort of heading?
Oh, mate, hopefully for them, they're heading up. They've just got to start making the right decisions on things. There's always got to be a club at the bottom. There's always got to be a club at the top. But for the moment, those clubs aren't playing particularly good football. You're wondering where the improvement is in them. And I suppose out of that, mate, is there's just a dissatisfaction there from the club about how they're going. So, look, they've made these changes so they can start improving their position on the ladder. We'll just have to wait and see if they make good decisions or poor decisions.
Yeah. I know you guys, you're talking about Cameron Ciraldo going from Panthers. More than likely, I would say probably to the Tigers over the Dogs or the Warriors. Who do you reckon would probably be the best fit for the Dogs or the Warriors jobs?
Look, I think Shane Flanagan's a very good coach. Shane Flanagan and Paul Roos have both shown that they can, Paul Green have both shown that they can get teams to premierships. So that's a good place to start. Whether that's the way they go, I don't know, but we'll just have to wait and see. I think there's a lot to happen then. Like, it might end up being those two, might end up being, Ciraldo, Tigers. That's the way everybody's looking. But the fact is, there's still a lot of talk from everybody before that comes up.
Yeah. Does anyone sort of give Jeff Tuvey a go at these sort of things? Because I know he was a really good coach when he was at Manly. It just, I guess, sort of come to a bit of a crappy end at the end, obviously. But does his name get thrown up to any of these jobs?
Not really. The last job he sort of really got involved in was the Warriors job, which ended up going to Nathan Brown. Speaking to Tuz, I think he's just about conceded that it's probably not going to happen.
Well, would someone like him be, possible good coach for the new franchise if the 18th team comes in, whether it be the Perth bid or whoever? You reckon he'd be a good start-off coach?
Mate, anything's possible. Anything is possible. I don't know, mate. To be honest, he's a good coach. He knows he knows his footy. He's doing coaching now with Warringah in the Manly Rugby League or the Sydney Rugby League comp. So he's still doing some coaching, but it just, a lot's got to happen. It's too early to look. There's not even a team yet, so to start speculating on who will be the coach, it's probably a little bit away yet.
Yeah. Obviously, speaking about the Perth bid and stuff, what do you think the chances of us merging with or sort of forming with North Sydney to make that that 18th team I know Buzz wrote a column about it a few weeks ago, saying that the WA government's got involved and started talking to North Sydney. What do you think the plan is there that with them going forward? Do you reckon it's a high possibility?
Oh, look, mate. The fact is, the NRL have not yet announced uh, have not yet announced that will be an 18th franchise. They won't be doing it for any point soon because we've still yet to see the 17th franchise play. So the last thing they want to do is rain on their parade and start announcing the next team before these guys have even been embedded down. So I think it's still a fair way away before there's any type of announcement. As far as the Bears and the Perth government haven't really got involved. A stadium in Perth got involved and shown some interest. That said, it's not a particularly good deal, and I don't think it's really what you would call enticing to the Bears. So again, for the Bears to be playing out of Perth, it's not impossible. I think it's in many ways it's probably the favourite, but it also means it's a long, long way away, mate. And I don't think that Perth should in any way think that to lay down Mazaire that they'll get the job.
Yeah. Well, out of the teams that that like you was just saying about the 18th team, it's going to be a fair way away with the bid, but you got Perth, North Sydney, New Zealand, and even the possible another Queensland team. Where your opinion, like personally, where do you think the NRL should go?
I don't really have a preference, to be honest. I think they've just got to, until we sort of see the bids, you've got to see what's going to be successful. There's no point going somewhere that's not going to work, and then even just picking the right city is not enough. You've got to have the right ownership sort of structure in place. You've got to have the right amount of sponsors. There's a lot there you've got to have, and until you sort of see what each is offering, it's hard to make a decision. But Perth geographically makes sense, but so does another team in New Zealand, and you could even argue that a team in Central Queensland would be worthwhile. But you just got to wait and see what they come up with and what they could spin. Perth takes rugby league across the country. It gives a different time slot that'll work. So there's a lot there to endorse it.
Yeah, absolutely. With Perth trying to holding Origin 2 years ago and this year as well, do you sort of feel, I don't know, I guess that the NRL is looking more towards Perth because of these reasons, or is it just a financial thing that WA's put in a bid to host those games?
It's a bit of both. Look, there's a clear indication that the NRL is trying to sort of put their toe in the water as far as Perth goes and see what the interest is. But clearly, the immediate incentive is the fact that the Western Australian government, for no other reason than tourism and economy, bring Origin to Perth. I don't think there's a plan there by the Western Australian government to try and grow rugby league followers. That's certainly the NRL plan, but I don't think it's the Perth government's plan. They just see that a lot of people from Queensland and New South Wales fly into Perth for that week and spend all the money, and therefore it's worth the investment for them.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about the 17th team, where do you think they're going at the moment? They're struggling to get that marquee signing. How do you think their roster is going to shape up by the time they're able to play?
Look, again, it's pretty hard because there's whispers around that sign players who they haven't announced yet out of respect for them. And if they've got a good player there, I don't think they've signed any big names, and that's going to be the issue. They've just got to. I don't know, mate. To be honest, they do need to get some good spine players. They've got young kids coming through who are going to be very talented, but that's not going to be enough for them, is it? So
Yeah.
they need to actually get out and sign someone. I think they do need to make a fairly quick impact. It doesn't look like it's going to be that, so
Yeah.
we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's
Well, it's like because I seen on the on Facebook and stuff today, there's whispers that going around that Payne Haas might be going, or Melbourne are trying to get Payne Haas and maybe offload Ken Munster up to Brisbane to sort of get into the salary cap. That takes one of the marquee guys off the list for the
I
Dolphins.
wouldn't listen to that, mate. Like Payne Haas has already shopped himself around for $1 million a year. And if he's going for $1 million a year, mate, that's pretty much what Melbourne have said they can't afford to offer Munster. So I think given a choice, they'd stick with Munster, but we just got to wait and see. But look, it could happen, but yeah, for it to happen, look, Haas has got another 2 years left at Brisbane. Munster's got next year at Melbourne. So again, that's they don't sort of match up quite that way. That doesn't mean it won't happen. It often can happen, but yeah, it's just you just got to try and look. It can happen, but I don't put too much stock in these types of things until we get a bit closer to it and you start to hear actually what is going on.
Yeah. Yeah, with that Payne Haas saga in the last couple of weeks, mate, like even as a Broncos fan, like I just couldn't believe, what him and his management had come up with. Like you guys kept reporting as well, like he kept changing his story every day on his reasons of what he wants, and I think him trying to shop himself around for $1 million plus, there's no prop in the game is worth that.
No, there's not, mate. It's to be getting that sort of money, you got to be changing. You got to be changing results. And as good as he is, like the fact is, he's been, which they keep making a point of, he's been the player of the year the past few years, but they haven't made the finals.
Yeah.
So it shows as good as he is, he's still not good enough to get him into the finals. Whereas a quality, like a quality halfback or something like they've got now with Adam Reynolds, has shown what he's doing there. So
yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't believe. Like I said, there's no prop worth that much money. Even the forwards. You probably got Isaiah Yeo that could possibly earn that in a couple of years if once he comes off contract with the ball playing that he has, and his impact on the game.
too, so that's an advantage for him.
Yeah, so there's no prop in the game worth that much money. Like you said, they don't impact the game enough. If Payne Haas had the skill of Adam Reynolds and Nathan Cleary, then there'd be clubs lining up out the door for him.
Yeah, 100%.
Just going on to NRL 360, mate. Like I said, I watch the show every week, every day. Every day it's on, I'm watching it, even if I have to get home and record it and all that sort of stuff. I watch it every day, so I love watching you guys. Can you just explain the sort of the beef that you got with Buzz Rothfield? I find it quite entertaining. How did that sort of come about? It was just two, I guess, alpha males just logging heads.
Not really, mate. Like I've worked with him for over 20 years now, and we know each other really well. We get on really well. But I would just say we just don't agree on a lot of footy stuff, mate, to be honest. Like I just see things differently to him, and he obviously sees it differently to me. So yeah, we just disagree. And that's it. It's as simple as that. He sort of, different times is a bit, he gets a bit annoyed by us having a crack at him, but bad luck,
I like I said, watching the show every week. I tend to agree with your positions a lot more than his. A lot of the times I can't see where the hell he's coming from. and I'm just a
Yeah.
fan who watches. I watch every game, and I'm just sitting there going, I just can't wrap my head around where he comes from sometimes. But I mean, he's been in the industry for a long time as well. So yeah, I mean, not saying he
Yeah,
doesn't
mate,
know what he's
I'm
doing.
the same. Yeah. Yeah, I look, the thing about 360, mate, is we just try to represent everybody's opinion. And I think that's sort of what works there. Like, Buzz obviously has a different opinion than us most of the time. There are times I do agree with him, but also I think that, there's just days where, if I'm on there and I'm saying it's blue and he's on there saying it's red, then most people at home sit at home and go, well, at least they feel like their opinion or their thoughts are being represented. So it's not
Yeah.
that we certainly never plan to disagree. Just we just don't happen to agree that much.
How have you liked having Braithen Astor come on as a host this year, and with his being the manager of Cam Munster, and I'm not sure he's probably got other players as well. How does that sort of gel in as well?
I'm just losing you there, mate.
With Braithen Astor coming on as the host of this year, and him being the manager of Cam Munster, I'm probably sure he's got a couple other footy players as well. How does that all sort of gel in together?
Mate, it's not a problem. I know there's a lot of chatter on social media about it. I've been told there's, people get out of their tree about it when he talks about it. The fact is, mate, you go through, Brad Fittler works with Channel 9, he's the New South Wales coach. Billy Slater works with Channel 9, he's the Queensland coach. Andrew Johns works on Channel 9, he's the assistant coach at the Knights. Phil Gould works on Channel 9, he's the head football manager at Canterbury. You've got Mick Annis works for Fox Sports, he works at Parramatta now. You've got Cooper Cronk as an advisor to Melbourne and the Roosters. So everyone's got a finger in the pie somewhere. So all this bullshit that people carry on about with Cam Munster is ridiculous. He's in the news at the moment because he's negotiating a deal. But all these people that come out and say, oh, he should declare his interest when he talks about Munster. Everyone knows, like, it would bore us all to tears if every time he mentions Cameron Munster's name, he has to put the qualifier in to say, I manage Cam Munster. Like, we all know that now. Like, let's accept that and move on. Fact is, and all these people are just saying, oh, it shouldn't be happening. Like, seriously, like, look at everybody just about in rugby league television. Everybody that's got a football background has got another interest just about somewhere else.
Yep.
They've nearly all got an interest. It's like when people bring up about Gordy being an ambassador, and every time something goes wrong at the Titans, they ring him. Gordon's an ambassador. He doesn't get $1 to sit there and actually be the ambassador. Yet there are people at other clubs who have got paid roles at other clubs, and when their club starts performing poorly, they're not called for an explanation. It's just, but once these narratives get taken hold of on social media, everyone just, it's like this little echo chamber where they all think they're right because they've heard 6 other dickheads on social media say it. You know what I mean? Doesn't make you right. The fact is, try and think for yourself a little bit. Like, it's Brace, it doesn't affect his job at all. And if all you got to do is watch the quality of the job he does to see it doesn't affect his job. He's not biased against Melbourne, or he's not biased against, towards Munster. Like, it's just, he just calls it as he sees it. As his manager, he answers questions. Ben Iker was on the board, and for many people, on 360. For many people, he's like the paragon of integrity. But he was also on the board at the QRL. He was also on the board at the Cowboys at different points. So people have other interests, and I think this rubbish that they all carry on with Braith having to declare his interest in it. He shouldn't be doing both jobs. Like, seriously, stick your head up and have a look at what's going on.
Yeah, exactly, mate. How have you found him personally as a host? You had great chemistry with Ben Ikin. and then was it Yvonne Sampson came in as well.
Yeah,
She was only there for half a year. Yeah, how have
yeah.
you found your chemistry with Braith?
I think he's doing a really good job, mate. We get on well. I think he's doing a really good job. I think he's got. I think he's doing a really good job, to be honest. Like he speaks his mind. In fact, that I wouldn't say I'm surprised he does, because I know him. But in that role, it's very easy to try and just take the middle ground all the time and not be that person because of his other roles as well. But just not be that person. But the fact is, he says what he thinks. And I know for a fact his opinions are honest. So
Yeah.
he's not misleading anybody. He's fair dinkum in what he says, and I think that's to be admired, because he does have to tread that other role at different times, and I think at times it probably does cause him problems, certainly on that side. But he believes in saying what he thinks.
Yeah. No, I think he's doing an amazing job on there. Like I said, I love watching you guys every day you're on. And I think you guys are doing an amazing job yourself, and Braith hosting that show, and all the different journalists that come on. You have your little tips with the other journalists or whatever it is, and the footy players that come on, and it's great.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the guys on social media saying that about Braith either. Like you said, there's so many other people that have got fingers in pies, and they're still part of the media. So everyone just needs to pull their heads in, like you said, and just accept the fact that he's Cam Monster's manager. Like, that's all it is.
Well, he's never tried to hide it. If he's trying to hide it, you might have a grounds for complaint about him being the manager. But he's never tried to hide it. He declared it. First half dozen times we spoke about Munster, he declared it, until the point where it's like, mate, we all know by now. You don't need to keep doing it. And that's what's happened. So, yeah, look, and mate, as far as the job is going, I think it's first class. I think he's doing a great job. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I'm really happy with him.
Definitely, mate. Absolutely. Just got a couple of fan questions that have come in. I've put up on social media, and a couple of people that come in. There's a couple obviously stupid questions, because you're in the media. People put up stupid questions, and I was like, no, I'm not answering them ones or asking them ones. So, one of the guys has put up, how would you fix international eligibility and players not committed to representing Australia playing Origin?
Oh, look, I think they've pretty much got it right at the moment. Like, because you got to. There's no simple fix. You can. I think at some point, I think the fact that Tonga have beaten New Zealand and Australia in recent years gives them grounds to be elevated to Tier 1. And I think that Samoa are probably heading that way as well. So if you had England, Australia, New Zealand, Samoa, and Tonga all Tier 1, then that would solve a lot of the problems, because that way the players couldn't play Origin, and for Samoa or Tonga.
Yep.
And I think the strength of those two nations is that certainly Tonga, in their recent results, they're ready to go to Tier 1. They've just got, I suppose, the only thing we're waiting for there is to see that they can do it over a longer period, not just have a short-term burst of a good crop of players who will then disappear, which I don't believe will happen. There are so many Samoan and Tongan players in the NRL these days. There's a lot of quality coming through. I think we need to actually start recognising that. Like, more than 50% of the game now is Indigenous or Polynesian.
Yeah.
So that's much different than even 20 years ago, when Australia, England, and New Zealand were the three Tier 1 nations. So I think we've just got to acknowledge that. You do that, then you solve the Origin eligibility. So because the Samoan and Tongan players will essentially become like England and New Zealand players, where they're just ineligible. And if we can continue to fund Samoa and Tonga and that like we need to, I don't think, and give them proper match payments when they play internationals, then I think that solves the problem. So I think we've just got to move with the times a bit more quickly, rather than just be stuck on where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question that's come in. we sort of talked about it before, but one of the guys has asked, what more does WA need to do to get a team? And the other part of it was, have you heard anything from anyone else in the game, whether it be club CEOs or players or anything like that?
About what?
About WA getting a team.
Mate, I don't think there's really much happening there, to be honest. The only interest really out of WA, there was a Perth bid a little while ago. Perth Pirates, I think they're calling themselves. I think that's pretty much, drifted away now. The Bears are probably the best hope, but I think the one thing Perth and WA people need to understand is it's a bit of a myth to think that the WA government are getting behind a team. They're not really doing that. There's a stadium interested purely for commercial reasons.
Yep.
But certainly the government has not come in with what they're leading people to believe they've come in with. So, and to be fair, I think it's got to be driven by a big group. I don't think it's a government. It should be a government initiative. I think the government should support the bid when it comes, and I think there's benefits there for the Perth government to invest in it.
Yep.
But I also think that it needs to be a proper bid with a proper ownership structure. What that looks like, I don't know. We've got various models in the NRL, from complete private ownership to company ownership to membership ownership, which are all different and run vastly different. But the first thing I think they need to do is just try and get that going and get the people, like the bid parties, like the Bears, for instance, or whether they bring back the Perth Pirates, or whether, for example, the Brisbane Bombers, whether that big group, whether they want to say, okay, well, let's see if we can go make it the Perth Bombers now, or something like that. That can all be part of it. But for WA to get involved, I think it's going to take, hopefully, I'd like to see another team by 2027, which will give the Dolphins about 4 years, 4 seasons, but also then comes in time for the next broadcast deal, which will then give us an even round, so we'll get rid of the bye, which the NRL, as a part of that negotiation, can also sell an extra game to the broadcaster. So that sort of makes the most sense. For that to happen, though, we'd really need Dolphins to be successful. So there won't be this argument that there's not enough depth to go around. So we need the Dolphins to do well.
Yeah. Just on, like, with the Dolphins and obviously the 18th team, I mean, I've put up these theories before and suggestions to people on my pages and stuff. Maybe does the NRL need to look at a draft system, a trade period, and like a compensation period for the new teams that they're trying to bring in, like the AFL did with the Gold Coast Suns and the GWS Giants?
Yeah, problem with that, I don't disagree with you. The problem with that is that RLPA are just dead set against the draft, always have been. That's sort of what they've, I suppose, built their, that's the core of what they've built their business on, is resisting the draft. Would actually be beneficial to the game. I think we need to acknowledge that, and there needs to be intelligent conversation around that. There won't be, I doubt very much there will be intelligent conversation. Because it's always a big bargaining chip, and when the NRL take it to the RLPA about putting a draft in, they have these ridiculous demands as compensation for that. The fact is, to have a salary cap, and this is part of the problem of the game, to have a salary cap, salary caps are designed to work in tandem with drafts, so you can get your way out of trouble, because it's very difficult as we're seeing with teams down the bottom of the ladder. The only way you can really get yourself off the bottom of the ladder now is to go the long haul and start really just developing young players. Now, that's not essentially bad for the team, but you have a club like West Tigers who have got good juniors coming through, but it's taken them 10 years to get it right, to get these kids coming through, and they're still to be fair, they're still probably 2 or 3 years away from actually starting to make a dent in the game. Now, that's a whole generation of players who have played poorly. We see in the NFL or other, in the American games where they have drafts, the NBA, for example, teams can draft their way out of trouble. They can either trade drafts or they can, use their drafts astutely and get good players who will come through and help their franchise. We unfortunately, when you're stuck at the bottom of the ladder, the only way you can get out of it, the quick fix, which is a real roll of the dice, is to pay overs for players and hope that works. Now that's difficult to do. Other teams have done it in the past. I don't get me on whether they cheat the cap or not. I'm sure some do and some have to go off the bottom of the ladder. But the way to honestly get off the bottom of the ladder is to try and roll the dice and get a couple of overpriced players and hope that they can turn you around to get you from 15th to 9th, and then you'll attract more players at proper value and get you from 9th to 4th or whatever. Or the other way is to just simply just pour all your money and energy into development and do what Penrith did, which is it took them 8 years to get going. But they finally got there. But it was 8 years of very clever management before they got there. So, and for most fans, having been asking them to wait 8 years before they got a premiership contending team, it's a big ask, and I don't think we should be doing that. I think a draft really helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't understand why the NRL and the RLPA haven't moved on it, but like you said, RLPA are stuck on their little thing. So, State of Origin tonight. I know you're a New South Wales supporter, but I heard you on the show during the week saying that you think Queensland have got a pretty good team to actually take it out tonight. Is that still your prediction for tonight, or?
Oh, look, mate, I don't know. Look, Origin's a 50-50 game, you know what I mean? It really is. And it wouldn't surprise me if New South Wales or Queensland win. There's no... look, it's a toss of the coin. I just really like what I hear out of Queensland. I think that they are setting up for a bit of an ambush. I was concerned with the things with the Blues last year, the way they ended the series when I thought they had an opportunity to really sort of put the throat on Queensland, and they didn't do that. But that said, mate, if New South Wales win, New South Wales are in certainly better starting position for the series because they've got that Queensland, that Penrith crux of the team. They've got so many Penrith players there who are all playing good footy and who will just naturally fall in sync, whereas the Maroons have probably got to have to come together a little bit, even though they have played together in recent years. So, but I do like what I'm hearing about Billy Slater as a coach, and I know there's an optimism around Queensland that they think they can shock the Blues tonight. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm looking forward to the game. I think it's one of the best Queensland sides I've had in the last probably 3 or 4 years. Since Cameron Smith and all those sort of guys retired. So I'm actually looking forward to it. Are you coming over to Perth for the second Origin game?
I don't think so, mate, because we've got a 360 on the next day.
Okay.
On Thursday, and not that that's a major problem, but it can be a bit of a problem. So I think there's no real reason to send me over, to be honest. And with everyone cost cutting and all that, I just don't think it's given I've got to stay here for 360 on Tuesday night and then back Thursday night. I don't think I'll be heading over anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, Paul Kent, that's all I've got for you, mate. Thank you for joining me on NRL Fans WA. If you ever do come over to Perth, let me know. We'll catch up for a beer or coffee or whatever. But yeah, thank you for your time today, mate, and best of luck with everything going on.
Pleasure, Jamie. All the best, mate.
Thanks, buddy.
See you, mate.
Yeah.